Over 60. Try this 5-part walking method to stay steady and fall free. Have you ever felt that split second of panic when your foot doesn't land quite where you expected it to? That moment when your heart skips a beat and you wonder if today might be the day you fall? If you're over 60, you're not imagining things. Your body is sending you quiet signals that millions of older adults are experiencing right now. But here's what most people don't realize. There are 5 simple walking adjustments that physical therapists and fall prevention experts have been quietly recommending to their patients. These aren't complicated exercises or expensive treatments. They're small changes that can make an enormous difference in how steady you feel on your feet. The statistics surrounding falls in older adults are sobering, yet they tell a story of hope rather than despair. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 1 in 4 adults over 65 falls each year, but less than half tell their doctor. The good news? Most falls are preventable with the right knowledge and small adjustments to how we move. We're not here to scare you. We're here to help you notice the quiet signals your body gives. Your balance system is incredibly adaptable, even in your 60s, 70s, and beyond. These 5 walking strategies work because they address the root causes of unsteadiness, not just the symptoms. Understanding why these methods work requires a brief look at what happens to our bodies as we age. Our balance system relies on 3 main components working together harmoniously: our visual system, our inner ear, vestibular system, and our proprioceptive system, the sensors in our muscles and joints that tell us where our body is in space. When we're younger, these systems work so seamlessly that we never think about balance. It's automatic. But as we age, each system can become slightly less efficient, and that's when we start noticing those moments of uncertainty, those split seconds where we feel less sure of our footing. The beauty of the 5 walking strategies I'm about to share is that they work with your body's natural systems, enhancing and supporting them rather than fighting against them. They help restore the confidence and fluidity that characterized your walking when these systems were operating at full capacity. Each strategy targets specific aspects of the walking process that commonly become problematic as we age, but they do so in ways that feel natural and intuitive once you understand the principles behind them. The head forward secret: looking ahead to move forward. The first walking strategy that's changing lives involves keeping your head up and looking ahead, not down at your feet. This sounds simple, but there's profound science behind why this works so well. When you look down while walking, you're actually disrupting your body's natural balance system in multiple ways that most people never consider. Your inner ear, which controls balance, works best when your head is upright and level. Think of it like a gyroscope. It needs to be properly aligned to function correctly. When your head is tilted forward and down, the fluid in your inner ear canals can't provide accurate information about your body's position and movement. This creates a cascade effect where your brain receives conflicting signals about where you are in space, leading to that feeling of unsteadiness that so many older adults describe. Margaret, a 68-year-old retired teacher from Michigan, exemplifies this problem perfectly. She came to her physical therapist after a close call on her kitchen stairs, an incident that had shaken her confidence significantly. "I was always looking down, watching every step," she explained during her first appointment. "I thought I was being careful," but her therapist explained that by constantly looking down, Margaret was actually making herself more unsteady. Her neck muscles were chronically tense from holding her head in that forward position. Her posture had shifted forward in a way that moved her center of gravity ahead of her base of support, and her balance sensors weren't getting clear, accurate information about her body's position. The solution Margaret learned was surprisingly simple, yet profoundly effective. She practiced looking ahead at eye level, focusing on a point about 10 to 15 feet in front of her rather than watching her feet. This wasn't about ignoring potential hazards on the ground. Peripheral vision and proper scanning techniques could handle that. Instead, it was about allowing her primary visual focus to support her balance system rather than undermining it. Within 2 weeks of implementing this change, Margaret noticed a dramatic difference in how she felt while walking. "I felt like I was walking taller, more confident," she reported to her therapist, "and I stopped that constant worry about my feet." The transformation wasn't just in her physical stability, it was in her entire relationship with walking and moving through space. This head-up position accomplishes several important physiological changes simultaneously. First, it engages your core muscles naturally. When your head is properly positioned over your shoulders, your deep stabilizing muscles automatically activate to maintain that alignment. This creates a stable foundation from which your legs can operate effectively. Second, it allows your balance system to work as it was designed to work. Your inner ear can provide accurate feedback about head position and movement. Your visual system can gather information about the environment ahead, and your brain can integrate all this information smoothly. Third, it gives you better awareness of obstacles and changes in terrain ahead of time, allowing you to plan and adjust your walking pattern proactively rather than reactively. The head-up position also has psychological benefits that shouldn't be underestimated. When you walk with your head up, looking ahead confidently, you project and feel a sense of purpose and self-assurance. This confidence feeds back into your physical performance, creating a positive cycle where good posture leads to better balance, which leads to more confidence, which reinforces good posture. The arm swing revolution, unleashing your natural counterbalances. The second strategy might surprise many people because it seems so basic, yet it's often overlooked, letting your arms swing naturally by your sides. Many older adults unconsciously start holding their arms rigid or crossing them in front of their body when they begin to feel unsteady. This response seems logical. If you're feeling wobbly, shouldn't you try to hold everything still and controlled? But this actually makes balance worse, not better, because it works against one of your body's most sophisticated balance mechanisms. Your arms function as natural counterbalances during walking, and this system is far more sophisticated than most people realize. When you take a step with your right foot, your left arm naturally swings forward slightly in what's called a cross-pattern movement. This isn't random, it's a precisely coordinated movement that helps stabilize your whole body by counteracting the rotational forces created by walking. Your brain calculates exactly how much arm movement is needed to keep your torso stable as your legs carry you forward. Robert, a 74-year-old from Texas, discovered the importance of this natural arm swing in a way that surprised him. He had always loved his morning walks through his neighborhood, but over the past year, he'd started feeling increasingly wobbly on the uneven sidewalks that characterized his older community. Without really thinking about it, he'd begun walking with his hands clasped behind his back, thinking it looked more dignified and controlled. He'd seen other distinguished gentlemen walk this way and assumed it was a sign of proper posture and composure. But Robert's daughter, who visited regularly, began to notice that her father seemed less steady during these walks. She was concerned enough to suggest that he see a physical therapist for an evaluation. The therapist immediately spotted the problem during her assessment. "Your arms are your balance assistants," she explained to Robert. "When you lock them up behind your back, it's like trying to walk on a tightrope without a balance pole." She helped Robert understand that the natural rhythmic swing of the arms during walking isn't just aesthetic, it's functional. The therapist taught Robert to let his arms swing freely, keeping them relaxed and loose at his sides. At first, this felt strange to him after months of walking with his hands clasped behind his back. "It felt almost sloppy," he admitted later. "I was so used to holding everything rigid that natural movement felt undisciplined." But as he practiced the technique over several weeks, something remarkable happened. The change was profound and almost immediate once Robert adjusted to the new pattern. He discovered that his natural arm swing actually made him feel more stable, especially on the uneven surfaces that had been causing him trouble. The slight forward and backward motion of his arms seemed to anticipate and counteract the small shifts in his center of gravity that occurred as he navigated cracks in the sidewalk, small changes in elevation, and the occasional loose piece of concrete. "I didn't realize I was working against my own body," he reflected after a month of practice. "Now my walks feel effortless again, like they did when I was younger." The science behind why arm swing is so important for balance involves several interconnected systems. First, there's the mechanical aspect. The arms serve as active counterweights that help maintain your center of gravity over your base of support. Second, there's a neurological component. The cross-pattern movement of arms and legs reinforces the neural pathways that coordinate complex movement patterns. Third, there's a sensory aspect. The movement of your arms provides additional proprioceptive feedback to your brain about your body's position and motion in space. When you artificially restrict your arm movement by holding them rigid, crossing them, or clasping them behind your back, you're essentially depriving your balance system of one of its most important tools. Your brain has to work harder to maintain stability using only information from your legs and core, and this increased effort can actually make you feel more unsteady rather than more controlled. The step-size strategy: finding your natural rhythm. The third walking strategy addresses something most people never consciously consider: the size of their steps. Many older adults, without realizing it, start taking either very small, shuffling steps or very large, overreaching steps. Both patterns increase fall risk dramatically, but for different reasons that illuminate important principles about how walking actually works. The ideal step length exists in what we might call a Goldilocks zone. Not too small, not too large, but just right for your individual body proportions and current physical condition. Generally speaking, this optimal step length is roughly the distance from your heel to your toes when your foot is flat on the ground. This isn't a rigid rule that applies to everyone in exactly the same way, but it provides a useful reference point for understanding what constitutes a normal, efficient step. Dorothy, a 71-year-old grandmother from Oregon, illustrates perfectly how step size can affect stability and confidence. After a minor stumble in her garden, nothing serious, just a momentary loss of balance while stepping over a small border edging, Dorothy became genuinely afraid of falling. Her response to this fear was to become incredibly cautious about every step she took, anywhere she went. "I thought smaller steps were safer," she explained to her daughter, who had become concerned about how tentative and uncertain Dorothy had become in her movements. Dorothy's new walking pattern involved taking very small, cautious steps everywhere she went. She would shuffle slowly across her living room, taking tiny steps that barely moved her forward. When walking outside, she moved so cautiously that a simple trip to the mailbox took several minutes. She believed this extreme caution was protecting her from falls, but in reality, it was creating new problems and actually increasing her risk. Dorothy's daughter was wise enough to suggest a consultation with a physical therapist who specialized in balance and fall prevention. The therapist immediately recognized what was happening and was able to explain to Dorothy why a well-intentioned strategy was actually counterproductive. When you take very small steps, you're constantly off balance, the therapist explained during their first session. You never have a solid, stable base under you because you're always in the process of transitioning from one tiny step to the next. The therapist helped Dorothy understand that tiny, shuffling steps create a situation where you're perpetually unstable. Instead of spending time in a stable, balanced position and then making deliberate movements to the next stable position, shuffling keeps you in constant motion with your weight, never fully settled over your base of support. This creates exactly the kind of uncertainty and instability that Dorothy was trying to avoid. The solution involved teaching Dorothy to take deliberate, normal-sized steps that would land with her foot directly under her body's center of gravity. This meant overcoming her fear and trusting her body's natural walking mechanisms again. The therapist worked with Dorothy over several weeks, gradually helping her increase her step length from the tiny shuffles back to a more normal pattern. The transformation took about a month of consistent practice, but it was dramatic when it occurred. Dorothy rediscovered her natural walking rhythm, that smooth, efficient pattern of movement that had served her well for 7 decades. "I feel like myself again," she said during a follow-up appointment, "strong and purposeful, not timid and scared." This step-size strategy works because it engages your leg muscles in the way they're designed to function and gives your balance system clear, consistent information about where your body is in space. When you take appropriately sized steps, your muscles can contract and relax in their natural pattern. Your weight can settle fully over each foot in turn, and your balance system receives clear signals about your position and movement. On the other end of the spectrum, steps that are too large create different but equally problematic issues. Overstriding forces you to reach beyond your stable base of support, creating moments where you're essentially falling forward and relying on your next step to catch you. This pattern can work when you're younger, and your reflexes and strength can handle the constant recovery, but it becomes increasingly risky as these systems become less robust with age. The heel-to-toe technique, rediscovering your natural shock absorbers. The fourth strategy focuses on how your foot contacts the ground with each step, specifically the subtle heel-to-toe walking pattern that many older adults gradually lose without realizing it. This technique doesn't mean walking like you're on a tightrope, but rather ensuring your heel touches down first, followed by a smooth roll through to your toes. Many older adults develop a flat-footed walking pattern where the whole foot lands at once, and this seemingly minor change reduces the natural shock absorption of your foot and ankle while making you feel less stable and creating jarring impacts with each step. Frank, a 69-year-old retired mechanic from Pennsylvania, experienced firsthand how losing this natural foot pattern can affect your entire walking experience. Over the course of several months, he'd started feeling like every step was a small jolt through his body. "Walking used to be smooth," he told his doctor during a routine visit. "Now it feels like I'm stomping around like some kind of robot." His knees were aching more than usual. His lower back was consistently sore, and he felt unsteady, especially when walking on harder surfaces like concrete or tile. Frank's doctor referred him to a physical therapist who specialized in gait analysis. During his evaluation, the therapist asked Frank to walk back and forth across the clinic while she observed his movement pattern carefully. What she saw was immediately revealing. Frank had completely lost his natural heel-to-toe rolling motion and was landing flat-footed with each step, his entire foot making contact with the ground simultaneously. "Your foot is designed to be a natural spring," the therapist explained to Frank after the assessment. "But you're not using that spring system anymore." She helped him understand that the human foot is an incredibly sophisticated piece of biomechanical engineering, with multiple joints, arches, and muscle groups all working together to absorb impact, adapt to uneven surfaces, and provide propulsion for the next step. When you land heel first and roll smoothly through to your toes, several important things happen. The heel contact allows your ankle and lower leg muscles to control the rate at which your foot lowers to the ground. Your arch structure engages to absorb and distribute the forces of impact. Your calf muscles engage to help control the forward progression of your body weight over your foot. Finally, your toes engage to provide the final push-off for the next step. This entire sequence happens automatically when your walking pattern is healthy, but it can be disrupted by injury, fear, changes in strength or flexibility, or simply by developing compensatory patterns over time. The solution for Frank involved retraining his natural heel-to-toe rolling motion, a process that required patience and practice, but yielded remarkable results. The therapist taught Frank to consciously land on his heel first, then allow his foot to roll smoothly forward through his arch to his toes, almost like his foot was a rocking chair moving forward over the ground. At first, this felt awkward and unfamiliar because Frank had been flat foot landing for so long that it had started to feel normal to him. The practice process involved starting slowly and focusing on the sensation of each part of the foot making contact with the ground in sequence. Frank would practice walking very slowly at first, paying attention to heel contact, then the gradual lowering of his forefoot, then the sensation of his weight rolling forward over his foot, and finally the gentle push-off from his toes. It felt mechanical and unnatural initially, but gradually it began to feel more smooth and automatic. Within 3 weeks of consistent practice, Frank noticed a huge difference in how walking felt. "It's like walking on cushions again," he reported to his therapist. "My whole body feels more comfortable." The jarring sensation with each step was gone. His knee pain had decreased significantly, and his back was no longer sore after walking. Perhaps most importantly, he felt more stable and confident, especially on harder surfaces that had been bothering him. This heel-to-toe pattern accomplishes several important biomechanical functions that contribute to better balance and comfort. It activates your foot's natural arch support system, which helps distribute forces evenly across your foot rather than concentrating them in one area. It engages your calf muscles properly, which are crucial for both shock absorption and propulsion. It creates a smooth, rolling transition from one step to the next, rather than abrupt, jarring impacts. And it provides your balance system with clear, predictable sensory information about ground contact and weight transfer. The pause and plant method, mastering the art of transition. The fifth and final strategy may be the most important for fall prevention, though it's often the most overlooked. Learning to pause and plant your feet securely when you need to change direction, stop, or navigate obstacles. This sounds almost ridiculously simple, but it's a game changer for fall prevention because it addresses one of the highest risk situations that older adults face during daily activities. Many falls happen during transitions, those moments when you're turning around, stopping suddenly, stepping around something, or changing from one activity to another. These transitional moments are dangerous because they involve complex, coordinated movements that require multiple systems to work together precisely. When you're walking straight ahead in a steady rhythm, your body can operate somewhat on autopilot. But transitions require active coordination between your visual system, your balance system, your muscle strength, and your reaction time. Helen, a 66-year-old from Florida, experienced a frightening fall that perfectly illustrates why the pause and plant method is so crucial. She was walking from her living room toward the kitchen one afternoon when the telephone rang behind her. Without thinking, she quickly spun around to answer it and immediately lost her balance, falling hard and bruising her hip significantly. The injury required several weeks to heal and left Helen shaken and afraid of moving around her own home. "I just turned too fast," Helen explained to her physical therapist during her recovery period. "I don't understand why something so simple caused such a big problem." The therapist was able to help Helen understand that what seemed like a simple movement, turning around while walking, actually involves a complex sequence of coordinated actions that become more challenging as our balance and strength systems change with age. When Helen spun around quickly while she was still in motion, several things happened simultaneously that overwhelmed her balance system. Her inner ear had to rapidly adjust to the change in head position and direction. Her visual system had to refocus from the kitchen area to the living room where the phone was ringing. Her leg muscles had to stop propelling her forward and start controlling a rotational movement. Her weight had to shift from being balanced over her forward-moving feet to being balanced during a turning motion. All of these adjustments had to happen within a fraction of a second, and her system simply couldn't coordinate that complex response quickly enough. The therapist taught Helen the pause and plant method as a way to break down complex transitional movements into manageable components. Instead of turning while still in motion, Helen learned to stop completely first, making sure both feet were firmly planted and her weight was evenly distributed between them. Only then would she turn her whole body as one unit toward where she wanted to go. For navigating around furniture or other obstacles, she learned to pause, plant both feet securely, step around carefully and deliberately, then resume her normal walking pattern. At first, I felt like I was moving in slow motion, Helen admitted after practicing the technique for a few weeks. It seemed so deliberate and careful that I worried I was being overly cautious. But as she continued to practice and build confidence with the method, something interesting happened. Helen began to recognize that this pause and plant approach wasn't actually slower than her previous method. It was more efficient. When Helen had been making quick, reactive movements like the spin around that caused her fall, she often had to make multiple small adjustments to regain her balance, sometimes grabbing onto furniture or taking several small corrective steps. These recovery actions actually took more time and energy than the deliberate pause and plant method. 6 months after learning and implementing this strategy, Helen was moving with more confidence than she had in years and hadn't had another close call. The pause and plant method works because it separates complex movements into simple, manageable parts that your balance system can handle one at a time. Instead of asking your brain to coordinate multiple simultaneous adjustments, you give it clear, sequential tasks. Stop, stabilize, move. This approach works with your body's natural capabilities rather than demanding more than it can safely provide. This strategy is particularly valuable because it can be applied to so many common daily situations. Getting up from a chair and immediately walking, stepping around a pet or grandchild, reaching for something while walking, answering a doorbell, navigating around furniture in dim lighting. All of these situations become much safer when you pause and plant before making your next movement. Integrating the 5 strategies into daily life. Understanding these 5 walking strategies is one thing. Implementing them consistently in your daily life is another. The key to success lies in recognizing that these aren't artificial techniques you need to remember to use. They're actually natural movement patterns that you're rediscovering and reinforcing. Your body used to move this way automatically when you were younger. These strategies simply help you return to those efficient, stable patterns. The integration process works best when you start with one strategy and practice it consistently until it becomes automatic before adding another. Most people find that the head-up technique is the easiest place to start because it provides immediate feedback. When you consciously focus on looking ahead rather than down, you can feel the difference in your posture and stability almost immediately. Once the head-up position feels natural and automatic, you can begin paying attention to your arm swing. Many people are surprised to discover how much they've been restricting their natural arm movement. Allowing your arms to swing freely might feel strange at first, but most people adapt to this change within a week or 2 of conscious practice. The step-size strategy often requires the most individualized approach because optimal step length can vary based on your height, leg length, strength, and current physical condition. The key is finding that middle ground between shuffling steps that keep you constantly off balance and overstriding steps that force you to reach beyond your stable base of support. The heel-to-toe technique may take the longest to retrain if you've developed a flat-footed walking pattern, but it also provides some of the most dramatic improvements in comfort and stability once mastered. Many people find that practicing this technique on different surfaces, carpet, hardwood, concrete, grass, helps them adapt the pattern to various walking environments. The pause and plant method can be implemented immediately in your daily routines. Every time you need to change direction, stop suddenly, or navigate around an obstacle, you can practice the deliberate stop and stabilize approach. This strategy often provides the most immediate improvement in fall prevention because it addresses the highest risk situations you encounter. the science of neuroplasticity and movement. One of the most encouraging aspects of these 5 walking strategies is how they take advantage of your brain's remarkable ability to adapt and relearn movement patterns even later in life. This capability is called neuroplasticity, and it means that the neural pathways that control movement can be strengthened and refined through practice, regardless of your age. When you practice these walking techniques consistently, you're not just strengthening muscles or improving balance, you're actually rewiring your brain to move more efficiently and safely. Each time you consciously implement good head position, natural arm swing, appropriate step size, heel-to-toe foot placement, or deliberate transitional movements, you're reinforcing the neural pathways that control these patterns. This neuroplasticity principle explains why the changes people experience with these techniques often feel so natural once they're established. You're not learning entirely new skills, you're rediscovering and strengthening movement patterns that your brain remembers from when these systems were working at full capacity. The familiarity you feel when these patterns become automatic again isn't coincidental. It's your brain recognizing and returning to efficient movement strategies it once used instinctively. Conclusion: reclaiming confidence in movement. These 5 walking strategies represent more than just techniques for preventing falls. They're a pathway back to confident, enjoyable movement. When you implement these strategies consistently, you're not just reducing your fall risk, you're improving your overall quality of life by making walking and daily movement activities more comfortable, efficient, and pleasurable. The transformation that people experience often extends beyond the physical improvements. Many individuals report feeling more confident, not just in their walking, but in their overall approach to daily activities. When you trust your balance and stability, you're more likely to remain active, social, and engaged with life. This creates a positive cycle where confidence leads to activity, activity maintains and improves physical capabilities, and better physical capabilities reinforce confidence. Remember that implementing these strategies is not about accepting limitations or acknowledging decline. It's about optimizing the remarkable systems your body already possesses. Your balance system, your proprioceptive awareness, your muscular coordination, and your movement patterns are all incredibly sophisticated and adaptable. These 5 techniques simply help ensure that all these systems are working together as effectively as possible. The goal isn't perfection, and the timeline isn't urgent. Small, consistent improvements in how you move can create profound changes in how you feel and how confidently you navigate your daily life. Your body isn't breaking down, it's asking for attention, support, and the kind of thoughtful care that these 5 walking strategies provide. With patience, practice, and consistency, you can rediscover the joy and confidence that comes with moving through the world with stability and grace.